We are going to continue on by now talking about the reactions in chemistry. And some of this is some review from physics where we briefly went over some of these topics. There are two types of reactions in chemistry, both chemical reactions and nuclear reactions. Chemical reactions are the rearrangement of the molecular structure of a substance as opposed to the change in the physical form. So we have seen a lot of chemical reactions thus far that we have studied in chemistry. So therefore, these again are the interaction of electrons. Versus nuclear reactions are the change in the energy or structure of an atomic nucleus. So think nucleus, nuclear reactions. So they are interactions of the nuclei. And of course, what we can find in the nuclei are the protons and neutrons. So thus, the protons and neutrons are changing the energy or the structure of, versus chemical reactions are just the electron reactions. So here we see an example of a chemical reaction. We have our chemicals rearranging, or the molecular structures rearranging from this is what we started with and this is what we ended with. Versus a nuclear reaction, there are two different types that we'll talk about, but we see a neutron in this case splitting up from one atom to two different types of atoms, creating energy. So there's, again, chemical versus nuclear reactions. This right here, we see two examples of chemical reactions. And then in class, we'll talk more about examples of nuclear reactions and some things that we can learn more about through watching a couple videos. In physics, you guys talked about nuclear fusion and nuclear fission. Fusion is the nuclei of light atoms joining to form nuclei of heavier atoms. So notice nuclei is joining, or I'm sorry, nuclear fusion is joining or fusing together. So if you've ever heard of someone having some sort of fusion surgery, like spinal fusion surgery, or if you, in certain art classes, you might fuse things together. That is the joining of two things together. And that's what we see here. We have two hydrogen atoms that are both really lightweight or don't have much mass, and they are becoming a heavier atom. So that is fusion, bringing atoms together. Versus nuclear fission is the opposite. So in nuclear fission is the splitting of a nucleus of an atom into two nuclei of lighter atoms, and this releases energy. So we use nuclear fission to generate steam nuclear energy. And maybe you've heard the word of like a fissure or fission, which is splitting or cutting. And so here we see that we have a uranium atom that is splitting into two smaller atoms. And we will talk more about these in class next class.